In the 18th century, Peter the Great of Russia gave a special mission to Vitus Bering, a Danish explorer serving in the Russian Navy. Bering was ordered to find out whether Siberia and the American continent were connected by land. He set out to explore the North Pacific, and in 1728, he discovered that there was indeed a body of water separating the two continents. This narrow passage would later be named the Bering Strait in his honor. Then, in 1741, Bering reached the landmass beyond Siberia, the North American continent, and that land turned out to be Alaska. After this discovery, Russian settlers began moving into the southwestern coastal areas of Alaska. They aggressively hunted seals and sea otters, collecting their fur, which was highly valuable at the time. For over a century, the Russian Empire controlled Alaska, exploiting its natural resources and pushing many animal species to the brink of extinction. Eventually, the profits from fur trading began to decline. In 1853, the Crimean War broke out between Russia and a coalition of Britain, France, the Ottoman Empire, and the Kingdom of Sardinia. After 3 years of intense fighting, Russia suffered a humiliating defeat. In the aftermath of the war, the Russian Empire turned its attention to expanding into southern territories and the Far East. But the war had drained the country's finances, and maintaining a faraway colony like Alaska was becoming increasingly difficult. At the time, Alaska was more than 7,000 kilometers away from Moscow, and there was no Trans-Siberian Railway to connect the regions. Alaska was simply too remote and too expensive to maintain. Adding to the burden, traces of placer gold had been discovered in Alaska. Rumors of a massive gold deposit began to spread, and Russia started investing large sums in the hopes of finding it. But the gold never came. Meanwhile, Alaska sat right next to British-controlled Canada. If conflict ever broke out, there was a very real risk that Britain could seize Alaska by sea without much resistance. Faced with these mounting concerns, Russia began to consider a bold move. How could we solve the Alaska problem while also screw our old rival over? The answer was the United States. At the time, the United States had just emerged from the Civil War and was undergoing internal military modernization. The country was gradually becoming a major power, and Americans had already begun encroaching into Alaskan territory. Russia, watching all this unfold, feared that it could lose Alaska to either Britain or the U.S. at any moment. Faced with this possibility, the Russian leadership came to a decision. Rather than risk losing it to Britain for nothing, it would be smarter to sell Alaska to the United States, which, like Russia, saw Britain as a common enemy. From the American point of view, acquiring Alaska offered a significant geopolitical advantage. It would allow the U.S. to surround British territories in North America and strengthen its strategic position. On top of that, the U.S. government had quietly obtained reports hinting that valuable resources might lie hidden beneath Alaska's frozen land. With both sides seeing potential benefits, the deal was made. In 1867, the U.S. purchased Alaska for just $7.2 million, an incredibly low price, even at the time. But as soon as the deal was announced, many Americans criticized it harshly. People questioned why the government had paid millions for what they saw as useless frozen wasteland. Some even accused Secretary of State William Seward, who negotiated the deal, of being bribed by the Russians. The territory was mockingly called Seward's Icebox. Despite the public backlash, many newspapers supported the deal. They argued it would bring future economic gains and help strengthen diplomatic ties with Russia. After the purchase, however, the U.S. government didn't show much immediate interest in Alaska. They simply established some military facilities to counter British influence nearby and left it at that. Then, in the 1880s, something changed. Gold was discovered in Alaska. This sparked a massive gold rush and renewed economic interest in the region. Not long after, the land began producing coal, oil, copper, natural gas, and iron. It turned out, Alaska held 1/10 of the world's coal reserves and energy resources worth hundreds of billions of dollars. What was once considered a foolish purchase for $7.2 million had turned into an economic gold mine. Strategically, Alaska also helped the U.S. expand its influence in the Asia-Pacific region. Ironically, the deal that once symbolized U.S.-Russian friendship ended up placing the two countries at odds just a century later. During the Cold War, Alaska became a frontline base for the United States, positioned right across from the Soviet Union. A dagger aimed straight at its heart. History is full of twists we never see coming. And it makes you wonder, How did the Soviet Union rise to rival the United States as a superpower? Or even before that, how was the Soviet Union born in the first place? Sometimes, the decisions that once seemed foolish become the wisest ones in hindsight. For the hidden stories of history, stay with Prussian Wolf.